Hello everyone. Today we have with us a veteran human rights activist, lawyer, and the chief of Chakma people, the Devashish Roy. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for this opportunity.
You have extensive experience working with different countries in South Asia regarding various issues. What I would like to know is your experience with the SAARC countries. What has been your thoughts about working with them, about cross collaboration, and basically your experience throughout your time working?
I have had different types of interaction with the people from different SAARC countries, both governmental as well as non-governmental, civil society actors, human rights activists, women's rights activists. And I think that on the whole, the sharing of our experiences has helped us obtain new insights into our own problems, but also as well as the problems and issues faced by our SAARC, South Asian neighbors. So both governmental, as I said, and non-governmental, although my interactions have tended to be more with non-governmental actors, NGOs, climate change activists, environmentalists. Although with regard to government, by accident or history, I was in charge of 2 ministries, including climate change, a long time ago. But otherwise, my interactions have been more with civil society actors, but also sometimes national human rights institutions. That has actually been also one of the very interesting events, interesting meetings I've had, where there was the National Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, of Nepal, India, so there have been very many avenues, including indigenous people's experiences in different countries. So I am involved in a few networks and organizations dealing with indigenous people's rights in Bangladesh. Apart from my primary duty of managing the affairs of the Chakma Circle, which deals with, we have a semi-autonomous justice system, our system of courts, customary law, etc., and then natural resource management like forests and other common food resources. But of course, I can tell you which may be the areas that you would be more interested in, because I am involved with environment, land rights, indigenous people's rights, climate change, a few things.
You have been involved in a lot of rights bodies, and if I remember correctly, you have also worked with various UN bodies as well on indigenous rights, on environment. So I would like to know that since this kind of collaboration, this type of working together is so important, where do you see this collaboration going? Is it improving? Are the countries more friendly with each other?
Well, in the case of civil society to civil society context, I think there is a lot of camaraderie, there's a lot of friendship and alliances between the peoples of different South Asian countries. So we could, in different contexts, including where I was involved in the drafting of the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples for more than 2 years. I was also the co-chair of the POP, Indigenous Caucus, the last 2 meetings in Geneva. So it was very interesting to have met people from these countries. But unhappily enough, I think collaboration at the governmental level seemed to be far less friendly, far more, if not conflictual, but there seems to be a lot of tension. But whereas I suppose the civil society actors, we have less hang-ups. So, we're not wearing suits with ties and sort of, we each trying to protect our quote-unquote sovereignty and all that. We don't feel so threatened as our government leaders, politicians and civil bureaucrats seem to. So I think actually there are so many experiences we could share. Like I have written on the constitution of Nepal. I have studied the constitution of India and Bangladesh. There are many areas of commonality where I think we could learn from each other. Just like our lawyers in Bangladesh have learned from the very good example of public interest litigation in India, with Justice Bhagwati, etc. And our lawyers in the Supreme Court of Bangladesh have also brought in public interest litigation where we can do for environment, for human rights, we can file cases and all. So I think there's a lot we can learn from each other's constitutional laws, other laws. For example, we are today at this meeting, we have been talking about forest areas and forest laws, where actually I'm very sad to say that the forest laws of Bangladesh are not really up to the mark if you compare it with the Kunming Montreal Protocol, Convention of Biological Diversity, climate change conferences. I think there's been a little, though I must say, with the interim government's legislation on the forest policy and on the forest law. I think there are some things we disagree with, we indigenous peoples and forest dependent peoples, but I think on the whole there's a change in the right direction. But we still have a long way to go to, for example, our land acquisition laws, eminent domain laws in Bangladesh. In the plains of Bangladesh, in the hills, we have a different law. It's quite draconian, quite anti-people. And there I think we can learn from India. India can learn from Bangladesh. We can learn from Nepal, which is the only country in South Asia and in Asia to ratify the ILO Convention on Indigenous and Tribal Peoples of 1989. And Nepal is the only country also with a proportional representation system where you have greater chances of inclusion. I think this was talked about in Bangladesh too, but it did not come.
So more specifically, in South Asia, indigenous rights have always been targeted in one way or another. Specifically, what about how is the solidarity of the indigenous population across South Asia?
We have very good, I think, rapport for indigenous peoples in Bangladesh with indigenous peoples from Nepal. They have their own sort of national body. And also with India, particularly in northeast India, but also in the middle tribal belt of like Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh and all. So we have very good, I think, relations with indigenous peoples of Nepal and India, and occasionally also in Pakistan and Sri Lanka, Bhutan. And I think this has brought some very good results in our own lobby and advocacy in our respective countries. So sometimes also we stand up in solidarity. For example, if there is a human rights violation, we speak as well. Whether it's in India or Pakistan or Bhutan or Sri Lanka or Nepal, we speak sometimes. So that way I think there's some very good alliances of indigenous peoples, of forest dependent peoples, of human rights activists, and also development practitioners. It's working on sustainable development. And I think if only our governments would also catch up with civil society. And I have a great deal of faith on our younger people, the Gen Zs and Gen Alphas. I think, but for us who are the older generation, I think it's time that we learn to pass on the baton, also pass on whatever insights and experiences we have to the younger generation, and they have to lead. They are already leading, but they will be leading in a bigger way in the years to come. So if we can have this intergenerational transfer of knowledge, of technology, worldviews, then I think that we can deal better, for example, with the huge challenges of climate change, both mitigation and adaptation. There, I think, and here it is, I think the indigenous peoples have a very rich store of traditional knowledge which can be used for humanity. So it's not just a coincidence that 80% of the terrestrial biodiversity of the world happens to coincide with indigenous peoples' territories. The same is with India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, perhaps Sri Lanka too.
Now, finally, in your vision, what would the ideal South Asia look like?
I would like to think that we have less hang-ups about each other. And in any case, India, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, sometimes tensions come up in such a way that, it hurts us all. So if we could build up, get a more peaceful South Asia where you don't have to look behind your back and say my neighbor is going to attack me, or have a trade war where one exploits the other. So I think if we could sort of learn more win-win solutions and win-win actions, the South Asian